I think having lived in Japan for now more than half of my life, I've come to not like handshakes anymore.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Like I've never
controversial.
controversial. Yeah, I never minded. I never didn't mind. Oh my God.
You're so flustered you can't
yeah.
even speak.
Exactly. I never really cared that much about like or even thought of a thing, but like here, like meeting all these new people and stuff like that, and some people like doing handshakes. I was like, I don't want to touch you. But maybe COVID had a little bit of like 2 years
Yep.
of just like doing like the elbow bumps and stuff like that. And I'm just like, ugh. Like it's like every time I wanted to like get to like a little alcohol thing, it just goes like.
Yep. Oh, I hear you. Totally.
I mean, just go to the bathroom in a public bathroom and then listen. Just listen real, not that close. Listen close and then see. Do you hear the stall door close and then the exit happen without some running water?
Oh,
You
man.
know why you don't want to be shaking people's hands.
Huge pet peeve. Huge.
Gross. But
It's so gross. I can't unhear it once somebody pointed that out.
No, first of all, Sandra, what are you doing? Like putting your ear up against bathroom doors? Or whatever?
No!
Like, are you a psychopath? You're like,
No!
let's listen.
It's judgment. It's judgment. I want to hear water. Like I can't know if you're actually using it, but just at least like for the social like agreement, just run the fucking water so I believe.
So even though you live on the West Coast now, that was spoken like a true East Coaster. I want to hear water.
I want water. Give me water.
I want to hear water.
Give me coffee.
Give me some coffee. Give me some coffee and a hot dog.
Give me some coffee.
Sandra, as bad as it is for you, it's worse for men.
Oh, I know, because you guys literally.
It's a very hands intensive operation.
Yeah, you gotta aim. You gotta.
And no one uses soap. It's so tragic. I used to carry around soap because I wouldn't be able to,
You're socially
be able to live with
responsible.
myself. Well,
I'd literally end it if I didn't have soap.
Chris gets pulled over by the police and they're like, let's search your bag. They're pulling out like soap and marshmallows and like, what the fuck is going on with this guy?
What is up with this fucking guy? He's got to be on a watch list.
Like
I also I also carry around with me a shoehorn.
What?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
That's a good idea. I hate when people don't have shoehorns.
Do shoes even need shoehorns anymore? To like?
Yes. Especially in Japan when you take your shoes on and off all the time. You don't want to untie them and tie them up again. Yeah.
Jay, you understand me.
Yeah. But I often get asked what's in my bag. It's always like some combination of like meeples and dice and like a prototype game drawn on index cards and stuff.
For a second, I thought you said meatballs.
I heard meatballs too. Just happens to be some meatballs rolling around in there.
No, I haven't had a meatball in like, I guess dango counts as a kind of a meatball in like a nabe, but like I haven't had a meatball like as a part of like a spaghetti and meatballs for probably like 30 years.
Yeah.
I like a meatball.
It feels like the 80s to me. The 80s, 90s maybe. But it's like firmly you get cut off in the mid-90s. No more spaghetti and meatballs.
No more spaghetti and meatballs. Yeah, and you're not going to order spaghetti and meatballs like out at a restaurant. Give me the spaghetti and meatballs.
Why is it even
Extra
offered?
meatballs.
For my birthday, I went to a restaurant and they had spaghetti and meatballs and they were fantastic.
And you ordered it? You ordered it?
Go! Oh my god, I was going to apologize to our listeners who may actually order meatballs and spaghetti, but we have a traitor amongst us.
Yeah, I don't know why that's so funny to me. Like Chris going into the restaurant on his birthday, he's wearing like this sort of like the comical birthday hat with the glitter on it, like happy birthday's written on it in like a bad cursive, and he's like, I'll have the spaghetti and meatballs. There's like so many other options, like the pizza and the cheese steak.
So, it wasn't just spaghetti and meatballs. No, it was pizza as well, salad, and spaghetti and meatballs.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
I don't think that helps your case, honestly. Because it's like, was the pizza because you thought maybe the spaghetti and meatballs would suck? Like that was your backup meal?
No, it was just like, we didn't want to just eat pizza for dinner, right? Right? Okay. You want a little bit of variety, right? So spaghetti and meatballs, right?
Yeah, if I had a time machine, I would go back to like original versions of certain restaurants. Like I want original Olive Garden.
crazy sticks or whatever. What were they called?
Yeah, the
Like
breadsticks.
breadsticks from Little Caesars and stuff like that, and
I-
Olive Garden's great
okay.
breadsticks as well.
I literally
bread.
just had the crazy bread from Little Caesars today.
Today.
Because I've been painting my room and I'm just so sore and like wiped out from doing it. And I'm just like, I need some trash food with a lot of salt in it to finish this. So yeah, I literally have it in my fridge.
Do you think that food tastes as good as we remember it? Like if you went back in time and then tasted the food back then, do you think you'd actually enjoy it? Because I remember like loving like Chef Boyardee, and now I can't stand it.
It's
not the same. It's not the same. You know what? Not to endorse any particular brand or something, but if you have like whatever brand makes the Trader Joe's, like Trader O's or something, that almost tastes like it. So
Trader
O's or something with meatballs.
yeah, you have like all the box cereals on one row, but then you got all the knockoff ones that are in bags on the like the level below it.
That is Trader Joe's. They have everything's their own brand from other manufacturers. And that's like a little life tip. If you're sick, always have a can of that around because it acts like soup. It's delicious when you're sick. I don't know why, but yeah. So it could taste good if they wanted it to.
Well, when one goes out to eat, you know how chefs and restaurateurs tend to like divide the courses into from soup to nuts, as it were.
And I was thinking it, and you said it.
Right. So too are there moments when you can't have everything all together. You can't have your pizza and your spaghetti and meatballs all in one course. You have to have pizza on one day, spaghetti and meatballs on the other. You gotta split it up. You know what I mean?
Oh, there we go.
But not on your birthday. Apparently,
not on your birthday. Yeah, but on today's episode, what we're talking about is how to split the party. If you should do it, when you should do it, how you should do it, etc., etc. So, what do we think, guys? Should you split the party first of all?
I'm a firm believer that magical things can happen when you do, but I also firmly understand how this goes wrong.
Chris, what are your initial feelings?
Yes, you can, but should you? Like
that's kind of the overall like title, right?
Yeah.
Like eating spaghetti and meatballs and pizza in the same dinner. You can, but should you?
It seems like heresy.
Oh my gracious!
And Chris here.
I'm getting roasted for eating delicious food.
Roast them marshmallows.
Roast them marshmallows.
I definitely think yes. There's like the trope of in the horror movie, why do these morons split up and go different ways? It's like stick together and you'll last longer and all that kind of stuff. But that's sort of what makes the horror movie interesting, is because they do split up, and now you get these like moments of like, can they make it through? So if you're playing in a Cthulhu setting, as players, you probably want to follow the convention of not, or rather follow the idea that they shouldn't split up. But at the same time, like, that's when you should most likely split up, because now you've got the bigger suspense moments and like real possible death moments, which make the Call of Cthulhu and horror settings really fun, right?
Well, so that actually raises the big thing that I was thinking. When it comes to being a player, there are like campaigns where you become like really invested, and staying alive matters a lot to you. So I feel like in those moments, and if you have a lot of players around the table who are similarly invested in staying alive, then practically you stay together. You're stronger together with all of your abilities, working in tandem, your problem solving, right? But I really do love these kind of like you were saying, Jay, these like Call of Cthulhu moments where you're just like, do you really want to survive to the end to just go insane? Or do you want the moments? Do you want the tension? Do you want the full roller coaster ride? That's when you want to split up.
And you want the glorious death moment where like I got torn to pieces by 15 kobolds or whatever it is. You know what I mean? That could be a really fun ending towards you, but it's gonna be paced correctly.
I also like sometimes you get like characters that are that are together that normally don't get together. Like the group dynamic changes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What happens when you have like two mages and no one to protect them, right?
It's a lot of fireballs.
Right. The paladin's always kind of keeping the two rogues in check, but then when it's two rogues by themselves, they get to go run amok and act a little bit differently when they wanted to.
Steel
Yeah.
They
ring
go find a
and
Chuck E. Cheese. Go nuts.
Well, there's two ways. There's two ways that people should split the party, in my opinion. If first of all, if it's a con game, it probably shouldn't happen at all. If it's like a short, like a one-off, just keep the party together, easy peasy.
Yeah.
If it's a campaign and you're meeting together week to week for X amount of times, then yeah, go for it. And if there's extended periods of time, what I like to do is give like whoever is the sort of like the star of the show, as it were, give everybody else on the table like side characters to play, or give them the control of NPCs, or have them roll up characters that they might meet along the way that are sort of little throwaway characters, but because now that they're got a name and a character, they become kind of a new element in this world that can have spin-off stories and webisodes, whatever. But you're sort of following the plot of the main character in a way, right?
Yep.
The other way to do it is whenever a party splits or whenever a GM wants to split the party, you just increase the edit or the speed of the edit, as it were. If I use a film analogy here. Like when you're with the party, you could have these long conversations. You could have like the debates. You could have this sort of like sitting in the scene a little bit. But when you split the party, you just don't want the other players around the table sitting around doing nothing for 30 minutes at a time and stuff like that. So you cut up the scenes just really tight. You got to kind of do like a 2 minute over here, then you jump back over here, and you jump back over here, and you jump back over here. And when you do that, you could actually, as a GM, have a lot of fun by kind of like splicing together really interesting moments with the cuts and stuff like that. Like the one player who's sort of like in the village, just walking around, they're about to go to bed, have a good night's sleep, and they kind of like they blow out the candle at the same moment. The person who's in the action set piece, like a barn explodes or whatever, like at the same moment, and you do all these little cross cuts that become like really exciting and almost like poetic in a way.
And it's great for pacing because having experienced that, like even if you're not in it, you are so invested because it is just going snap, 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 and you're trying to like see how it's all going to piece back together. In the end. So yeah, it's the best waiting around I've ever had.
Right, and if you're around the table and you're waiting for and you really want to know how that adventure goes, that could be really fun to like watch the other and like you kind of root for your player mate, right? To make it, right? There is a tendency for I think some GMs to be like, okay, well you weren't there, so you don't know what happened. Please go in another room. And I do it occasionally, though I'm never sure if it's to be completely of its efficacy. So like let the other players watch, like, and then it's on them to like pretend that they don't know. They do it all the time, right?
Yep. Well, another way that you can make it less boring for those players that aren't in that immediate scene is you can have them play villains or enemies.
Have them play the monsters, yeah, for sure. That's
right.
That's really
right.
Fun.
Ooh.
And then they kind of they kind of hope. Oh, it depends on your player, but some will hope to destroy their friends, and others will hope that the bad guys lose.
That's a great idea. I often have done in one-offs and in campaigns have done sort of like kind of split the party moments where I'd start with a cold open where I'd give everyone kind of like temporary character sheets or ready-mades, pre-made characters to play. That would be like a doomed party. They might not know it, but then they instantly die within the first 30 minutes of the game, something like that. Like it's like you start off in media res in the heat of the moment. They're deep in the temple, explain the temple, and then have the enemy come out and just like mop the floor with them. Right. then you jump back and you give them their actual characters, and you lead and you're leading back up to that moment. And then when they walk into that room and they see all their previous like characters like dead in the room, they're like, oh shit! And it's such a great little moment of like it's a very cinematic kind of thing, right? So
you've been humbled.
Yeah, I'll often do scenes where the characters would have no knowledge of the things that are happening, like the big bad having his sort of monologue with his henchmen in his tower and whatnot, and just do that scene, and then go back to the players and just like a movie would do. So you as players now have that information that you can play off of, and it doesn't take anything away from the story at all. Like, in fact, it makes the villain sort of more present and like what's going on, what are the moving pieces and things like that, right?
Is he really the baddie?
Yeah, there's this great YouTube channel called like In Deep Geek where they talk about like stuff from like The Witcher and Lord of the Rings, and there's all these 30-minute, 45-minute, like really like in deep discussions of like what was the Lord of the Rings like from like Gollum's perspective or whatever. And it's really interesting to see that because you only get like parts of the story, and that could be really fun to do it. But like I wouldn't Lord of the Rings wouldn't be as good of a book if it was just following like first person Gollum's perspective through the whole story. So it's like as a GM you have the opportunity to sort of quote unquote like split the party or split the narrative in this sense into kind of different chunks that can give people different perspectives of what's coming or what they've been through, or even like the results of them playing a party moving through a village and leaving it as a burning wasteland.
Who would do such a thing?
Now, what would you do though if you had split the party and one party is very active and they do a lot of things and the other party doesn't do anything?
Yeah. What would you do?
Get the pointy stick and say, do something.
Yeah, well, this is again why having an NPC in a group is always really helpful to help kind of motivate along the sequence, as it were, or have your back pocket episode that could like happen to the players rather than them interacting upon the world, right? That's always important. Yeah, that's player knowledge, isn't it? Like as a GM, you know how certain players interact with the world, or someone needs that support, and you can kind of encourage subtly, or discourage subtly, two characters sort of going off together for knowing that the two players themselves might not have a great time interacting with each other or whatever. I mean, that goes back to, I think we've mentioned a few episodes ago how there's like the teacher-like quality of class management and just knowing like, okay, that character and that character, that would be a very bad thing indeed. But there may be some listeners screaming and saying, no, just let it take its course. And I think I might actually be part of that situation. But
so it kind of sounds like you need to be familiar with your party, which is probably why Jay had raised the issue of doing this as a one-off is going to be a lot harder than doing this in a campaign. If you know the dynamics of the people you're playing with, you can kind of carefully craft certain things or not. I mean, we've been in situations where it wasn't obvious how things were going to split, so the players at the table kind of organically decided who's going where based on what their characters were going to do, and there's no way to plan for that, but at least there's agency with the players. Like if your least favorite person at the table, you're agreeing with them, guess what, you are going to be splitting the party with them, and you're going to have to commit, and it's not the DM's fault, right? So yeah, I kind of see a weird gray area here between trying to carefully craft the social aspects of it to make sure that each of these split parties is having the best possible time. Yeah, I kind of like it as a player being able to make that choice myself and have friction if that's what's going to happen.
Well, there are like the way that I see it, there are two kinds of splitting the parties. There's accidental division and there's also planned division, right? Accidental being like say a portcullis falls in the middle, and depending on their marching order, it splits them that way, right? Or there's also like planned division is
cave in, or they fell apart. Yeah, now they're got to find their way back to each other. Yeah,
right. So yeah, that'd be an example of accidental. But then planned would be almost like you have a heist, right? And you gotta do objective A and objective B at the same time, right? That kind of thing, right?
Famously now, what is this? 5 years ago, Sandra, where we had the moment where a political character and his sort of traveling priestess made their way, following a lead as to where these elusive magic users were. And the idea was this was sort of like almost the end of like the session 0 in a sense. It was like the kind of the call to adventure, to use the kind of monomyth. And one of the characters rejected the call and the other one accepted the call, and they were the two main characters. I was like, oh, what I wasn't expecting that. What do we do now? And so one of the other characters just like, I'm going home, basically.
Yeah, except when he went home, he would have sent the rest of the kingdom after these rebels, right?
Rebels.
The question was, do you shoot him? Like, shoot him in the back as he rides off? Do you kill him to save these rebels you just joined? And that was like such a tense moment because
as one of the characters,
I voted to kill him.
to kill him. You did. The real lawful good character who was holding the bow aimed at the back of his head as he walked far down the path, though, and ended up holding staying his hand. And then because of that, it just became like, well, this was a central character that we've been playing for 4 sessions now. We can't just make them an NPC, so we decided to make 2 separate storylines, which we'd alternate from week to week, essentially, or we'd stick with one for a few weeks and we'd go back, and then it just became just the 2. You had the Sam Frodo story, and you've got the kind of the Aragorn story, and they're happening kind of simultaneously, and we kind of jump back and forth. And the one side was like a bit more of like a political, trying to root out these rebellious magic users, and the other one was now part of the rebellion who's actively trying to like solve some other deeper mystery. And it was fun to kind of go back and forth about that, with some characters having more or less information, and then the players having to sort of like be mindful of that and careful when they switch back and forth, which is kind of fun because they could then be a character on the political side who's actively trying to plot to kill their own character who's on the other side of the story, and they leaned into that, which made it really fun and effective.
I remember specifically we had to refer back to notes at times to make sure that we weren't like cross-pollinating things that we knew as players. We're like, this is really important because we will act differently if we know this. So we had to go all the way back in the notes, all the way to whatever session, find it, and then make that decision. So I think there's a big, if you're going to do a long split session, those notes are going to be essential to not have that kind of like bleed over of knowledge. And it would feel bad to find out later that you kind of made choices and had big impacts in the campaign based on knowledge you shouldn't have had.
So it seems like we all are pretty much in agreement that like it is a useful tool. It just has to be done with like there's small nuanced adaptations that need to be made to the general flow of the game when it is done.
What do you think are some of the pitfalls?
Well, I think they've been sort of addressed in the positive, in the sense that like by speeding up the edit, you're refraining from having players just sit around doing nothing the whole time. Though a good split party moment could happen when one player's got to go get the pizza or whatever, deal with family work situation that happens in the background. That could be like a type of unplanned split. But yeah, for me, like that's why you make the adaptations to stop. It's basically the downtime. I think the downtime is the most boring part. Everyone wants to play the game. Any board gamers might know when you sit around to play a game and you've got the one player who's got like the analysis paralysis, and everyone plays their turn, takes like 3 to 5 seconds to take a turn, and then it gets to the one player who then has to like think about their turn for 5-10 minutes, and it's just like, oh, it just drags, man. And it's just like, it really like gives a negative taste to the whole experience,
Mm-hmm. Something that I had on kind of like the negative side of this for players and DMs is experience. Like, I feel like you can pull off some incredibly magical moments with experienced players. Like they get it, they understand, they know how to stay in that character. And if you play 2 characters at once, also you can juggle that pretty well without winding up playing the same character for both sides, right? So I'm wondering, like, have you tried this with newer players? To what degree of success?
I think it's always worked for me. Though as a GM, I'm always active in the game, so it's not decreasing my fun by splitting the party. And it's sometimes I sometimes maybe unaware of like a player who's just kind of like sitting there twiddling their thumbs and would like to have more action-packed moments and stuff like that. So that's kind of hard to realize, but I think I'm doing pretty good here. I'm not sure.
I've done it a few times with some new-ish players, some like that have only had like maybe 1 or 2 under their belt.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you keep the pace moving, it should be fine.
Mm.
Right? Like you don't want to stick with one person for too long. You don't want to give them the spotlight for 8 minutes and then someone else for 1 minute, right? So just keep it balanced.
Sorry, did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. Nah?
Yeah.
I don't think that's my door.
Inexperienced players, you say?
Oh, hi.
Who is in there? Oh, you knew I was coming, didn't you? Hey,
I suspected it.
well,
Who told him we were gonna test?
I don't know. I didn't tell. Hey, Phil, how you doing? Oh, you know, I'm just in the neighborhood, walking around. Got my cheesesteaks. You're talking about splitting the party, you noobs. Never split the party. That's ridiculous. See, people over there, they're playing the game.
Really? Never split the party?
We had some good points actually before you showed up, Phil. Why do you think that splitting the party is a bad idea?
Wait, you had some good points, you're saying, yeah? So you got one guy sitting over there picking his nose, doing nothing while everyone else is having a good old time? How's that a good point? That's ridiculous. You get everyone together. Whenever I go to the game, me and my boys, we're watching the game the whole time. We're playing, we're involved, we're doing something. It's ridiculous. Buddy, what funny? Want me to come over there and smash your fucking head in?
Hey, we're
whoa,
talking about
Phil.
RPGs, not football, Phil.
Yeah.
No way.
Hey, it's a fucking game. You know what I'm talking about? It's the same goddamn thing. Jesus Christ. When I get my boys over, we sit down, we have a few beers, we're having a few laughs.
Have you played any tabletop RPGs in your time, Phil?
Oh yeah. I get about there every week. You know, we play like 5-6 times a day. You know, we sit down. we
6 times a day.
we go down Geno's. We get a few cheesesteaks. You know what I'm talking about? We sit down. Yeah, we have a blast. RPGs.
I mean, food's
RPGs.
really important for a good RPG. I'm gonna agree with you on that, like strongly. Yeah.
That's what I call me and my buddies. We're the RPGs.
Okay.
RPGs, huh?
Yeah, all right. I think maybe I'm a little bit too intense for this crowd, you nerds. But call me over next time when you need help with your plumbing. Gee, Christ.
All right.
I can say there's no wrong way to play RPGs, Phil. So we support your methods.
Whatever. Sorry guys. That's my new neighbor. He just moved into town. Yeah. Anyway, he's been wanting to be part of my session for a while yet. I'm not sure if I invite him in. You know, he just shows up unexpected from time to time.
Why does he smell like vinegar?
More like piss and vinegar, nerds.
So do you think Phil would eat a hoagie or a grinder? And that's a trick question.
I don't want to get him started.
Maybe a hoagie on a grinder.
On a grinder, on a meatball, spaghetti, on a pizza, on a marshmallow.
Hey. Okay, I'm starting to like him a little bit more now.
Whose marshmallows are these outside?
Don't you dare touch my marshmallows.
Just write those off. Write those off, Chris. Just let those go. You gotta watch where you leave your marshmallows, Chris. Anybody's can find them.
Oh boy. Well, on that note, guys, let's take a quick break and we can settle down and close the windows.
Good idea.
Lock the doors before air it out.
You gotta air it out
Everyone
first,
lock
please.
the doors.
Yeah, everyone lock the doors. All right, and we're back. Now it's time for 3RPG fixes, where we take a small idea and we fix it. So today's fix is boring monsters. What do we do about them?
What you do is you find one monster, you mix them together to make one crazy monster.
We make them do stuff that's unexpected. The dumb monsters are smart. The smart monsters is dumb. Do something weird.
We kill them.
Kill them!
Find more monsters.
You kill them and you splice them.
The 3RPG podcast is brought to you by
BasilEX Machina. You're deep in the crypt of the unnamed, and suddenly Ralgor the barbarian starts talking about taking his son to soccer practice? He has no son, and what is this soccer practice? It must be the madness of the crypt. And in those situations, it's best that you have BasilEX. It's best that you have BasilEX. BasilEX Machina.
You gotta say each word by itself. That should be
BasilEX Machina. And in those situations, it's best. No, Sandra.
It's that best basilisk.
BasilEX Machina. Okay. In those situations.
You're
Oh God.
corpsing. He's corpsing.
In those situations, it's best to have BasilEX Machina. It is a basilisk that you carry in your pocket to turn those thoughts off and leave Ralgor in the middle of the dungeon alone and in stone.
So why should we try BasilEX Machina over the other leading brands?
Well, after the madness has disappeared, to reverse it, you just need to smear the blood of the basilisk all over their bodies, and they turn back to normal, acting all normal. It's for those days when your party stumbles into madness, about those situations where they start thinking about a hot date that they don't have.
I tried the other competitive brands, and then when I tried BasilEX Machina, I was able to forget about my ex-wife.
Wait, that happens every time.
Spear some blood all over them. It'll make them feel better.
I'll swipe right on that.
BasilEX Machina, brought to you by the 3RPG company. In shops now.
We're sorry.
Excessive use of BasilEX Machina will lead to headaches, erectile dysfunction, diarrhea, nausea, and other side effects. Use BasilEX Machina with care.
And we're back with a very interesting question for Chris and Jay. I think you play the game long enough and you're going to wonder, what's better than one DM? How about two? But you don't see it very often, or at least you don't see it pulled off very often. And I was wondering if either of you have co-DM'd, or if you have strong opinions why you would never do it.
All right, hold on, Chris. So, multiple DMs, rotating DMs, can it work? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Yes.
No. No way. When I first started playing Dungeons and Dragons with Jay and Fukuoka, we tried this. And let's just say it was extremely frustrating, I found, at many points when I was trying to DM. A lot of it had to do with lore and plot threads, and stepping on each other's toes. It's often like you'd come up with a story, and if like we had it so that like say DM A would do their thing one week, and then the next week DM B, and then DMC and DMC would run a session.
And then DMZ would show up. You can't go in there. You can't go in there.
No.
But yeah, we tried doing that, and the story felt like you're kind of forced to prepare based off of what the last person did, because you never know where the DM would leave you. So suddenly now you have to do this prison break when that's not what you wanted to DM, right? The idea that you're doing it off of someone else's ending that you had no either desire or will to do, but also that everyone was so different in their styles, and the plot threads it got all messy. We had like 8 different villains that really we didn't see again, and it was just. Now Jay's saying that it can work. Please.
Well, before Jay pitches his thing, I have a couple questions for you. First off, were you present for the alternating sessions? Like, were you there when your co-DM was in charge, or did you just come into this blind every other week?
So everybody, like, kind of like the DMs, they would rotate every week, and I decided that I wanted to DM a session as well, right? And yeah, I was there for I think almost all the sessions. I think I missed maybe the first session where you guys had created the characters. But then after that, I was there till the end.
So how many DMs were there? It sounds like it was more than just 2.
3 of us.
Technically, there were 3 of us.
Yeah.
4 if we included Dave.
Dave didn't really show up though. Yeah.
He only showed off my initial one, the first one that I went to.
The first one, yeah. So so when one of us was the GM, our player character became an NPC. It was still in the same world. It was still following the same story, and I guess it was one of my little brainchild that just this one didn't work. But I don't think that the concept can't work. I think why this particular iteration failed was because we attempted to do like a big kind of Lord of the Rings style campaign arc where the author changed from week to week, and that's why it didn't work. If we had just kind of set with a kind of monster of the week type of within the world, and like that GM kind of played out that story where there was like this little sub boss and blah 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 blah, and like one of us was in control of this, one of us was in control of this, and we bifurcated the story that way. Then I think it could have worked, and there were attempts to rein that in towards the end, but by that point it was already too gone, and all the ideas and personalities kind of got in the way of it all. But I still think that it could work. But the better way to do would be don't try to weave this huge narrative, because, and this is where I agree with you, Chris, what happens is everything it's all about kind of setup and release, whatever, right? Like not release. What's the word?
Payoff.
Set off and payoff. Yeah. So when a DM is setting up for something that they really want to pay off later, and then the payoff is sort of like swiped by another GM who turns it in a different direction, and then it's like, oh, bummer. Okay, well, there goes all the rest of my ideas, and then that's where it kind of started to collapse in on itself. But I still think the concept, if it's plotted out, like if it was just, we're going to play in the Star Wars world, and people are just playing stuff, like everyone kind of knows how it works and how the canon works and this kind of stuff, and you could play in that world with rotating GMs and like who's going to be the GM this week, and you just do like little stories within this universe. Totally doable.
Then why even have it continue though? What, like I guess
because the players are going to be the same, and they're going to still have the items that they gain from like another GM's quest, but then they move on, they play with another GM, and they move on, and some of the things can kind of stick around, and maybe but a GM plays until like their little story arc is complete, and then you move. But then like the repercussions of that are still around, and then maybe like the burnt out village, which was like massacred, or everyone became like refugees or something like that, and the next GM session decides to make that city rebuild itself. Well, there's no harm, no failure there. You move on. Like that could totally work.
Jay, have you ever let anyone else DM in your world?
I think people have done in my world. Like you played one of my one-off sessions.
But like, have you ever let someone GM in your setting?
No, I don't think so.
Why?
Because it's and it's the issue of like I want that through line. I want that. I'm setting up things for the payoff, right?
Right.
The concept.
And you wouldn't want someone else messing any of your world up either, right? In that way, like introducing things that should not exist, or you did not plan to have exist, right?
But the world that we were splitting GMs in was a mutually created world, so nobody had onus on one thing or the other, and that was the issue. It wasn't someone's world. Is on session 1 we all just created the world together.
That's correct, right?
And so I don't think there was like a ownership of the world that was a problem. It was more like narrative structure that became problematic.
But I think it's more about like keeping certain like lore, because the campaign that I've created, right? The campaign that I've had people DM in my world, and they introduce things that I did not want them to introduce,
like microplastics,
especially microplastics. But especially like they started throwing in phoenixes here and dragons over here, and I was like, no, they're not supposed to be fighting dragons at like 4th level, right?
Yeah.
Like just because they wanted that as part of their overarching story. So I find that it's like too many cooks. It's the too many cooks. Too many cooks.
I still think it can work. And in the case of that, like you do like a stronger degree of control over your worlds and stuff like that. And I think that's fine. If you didn't like what a DM did to your world, I think when it comes back to your turn as the GM who has done like what 99.9% of the GMing in your world, and you didn't like what was added in, you just don't make it canon for one. Or you could integrate it in the world like that session was just a storybook that was being role played in real, like it's and like
but then
that character
the
was reading the
DM,
book.
then the DM that did it though, when they find out that their story didn't mean anything to the actual canon of the world, I find that would be problematic for them.
You have that discussion with a player, and being able to sit down with that player and be like, setting the rules for the story is important,
And I think that's where we agree that if this were to work in any fashion, you would have to set some rules. You'd have to at least talk about this with everyone and say, like again though, like,
you need
to
a
surprise
style.
them.
You need a style sheet in a sense, right? Like for the
You need a Sandra.
You need a Sandra for the Marvel movies.
idea.
And perhaps you could jump in on this, Sandra, too, because like for the Marvel movies, for all the Star Wars movies, who are all done by different writers. I think this is why people didn't like the Ryan Gosling. No, who is it? Who did the Return of the Jedi, the second one of the new? I don't follow Star Wars that well, but everyone fucking hated it. I kind of liked it a little bit because they threw a lot of stuff out the window, But everyone hated it because it's like, oh no, this is ruining the canon, and it's almost like the last 3 Star Wars movies are a sort of an argument for what Chris is saying and why it doesn't work, because it's like 3 GMs taking all 3 of the movies. They don't have an idea where the story's going, and so it's a mess. But if they had sort of decided on like a plot and a storyline going forward, and they had sort of like style sheets for these characters, this is what this character would do, wouldn't do, this is how you play Darth Vader, this is how you don't play Darth Vader, blah blah blah. You do that, then it sort of works, and you still have prizes within this. These creative limitations lead to that.
I was so looking forward to hearing your, like, I guess, untainted views of this experience, because there is a professional version of this for writers, and that's called a shared author project. And there's a bit of a rise on that right now, because it lets you put out a book or a series a lot faster if there's multiple writers, and it lets writers in between their other larger projects kind of put something else out there. So there's a lot of gain to the concept, but literally listening to everything you're saying between your experiences literally is the problem with shared author. Is like, you brought these people in to create a world, create a story, because you like their writing styles, you like their imagination, what they brought to the table. But because everybody's style and their vision for things is going to be very different, it's you hit a problem right off the bat with trying to combine so many ideas in one and not taint the lore, basically.
Yeah.
It's the too many cooks situation.
Yeah. Now, it can absolutely be done, but there has to be a pretty big level setting right off the bat. Like, everybody has to understand, almost like the right of way. In these kind of projects,
you need a Kevin Feige. That's the way I'd say it. You need a Kevin Feige. Okay.
Huge IPs. They have entire lore departments for this, right? If you want to introduce something for a story element, and here's where I think you were having some problems, Chris, with your experience. Somebody wants to introduce a new lore item that doesn't exist because they've written a whole narrative around that concept. They're excited about it. And you're just like, phoenixes, no thanks, right? You need somebody to be the bad guy to say why that's not going to work. Not just it won't work, but why it's not going to work. So then you need somebody who's so intimately into your world to take the fall for that. And I feel like it's hard, if you're not used to like a critique cycle, to tell somebody, no, your idea is not going to work, and hope that it doesn't go disastrously for your relationships. So in a professional setting, this, like, 1 out of 10 ideas gets through is common. We're used to throwing ideas out there and them getting shot down. It's a lot harder though with friends.
Yeah.
And I think that might be what I'm hearing is a big hang up in, in a DM shared what am I trying to say? Not shared world, but like allowing somebody to DM in your world. It's going to be a lot of no's, and that could be really tough.
Well, we were
And I
doing
think
we were doing an ad hoc
yeah,
story,
so
but we were also really invested in the characters, and then without wanting it to get too silly, and that's where maybe it got frustrating. But
mm. I think like, in my situation with my campaign that I let someone else DM in, they wanted to make a story that I was unprepared for. So I didn't know what was going to be in there, right? And suddenly now we have gorgons and phoenixes and dragons and all these other weird things that I probably would have saved for later and done in a different way. And I think that was kind of the issue.
So I would, if I were in your position for that, Chris, having my own experiences professionally, my question would have immediately been, why do you want to set this story in my world? If it doesn't fit the world, why are you using the world?
Player had his own character in that world as well.
They wanted to use that character, yeah.
And they wanted, well, I think maybe they enjoyed some of the lore that I'd created. Like I'd created civilizations, I'd created places, and instead of like reinventing it all, just okay, we can have this story in Tahul, right? And we're good, right? Or Nudanal or whatever, right? So I think he just wanted to, he wanted to try his hand out at the game or at the DMing, but at the same time, he didn't want to do all the work of creating a new world from scratch.
Well, yeah. At the end of the day, if you need a world or want a world to be somewhat consistent, you are going to need someone who's going to kind of make the final decision on whether things work or don't work in it. In a way, I outsourced a lot of the stuff that I did in my world on the political side of things by just asking my friends to make decisions so that I couldn't be biased as to what I throw out my characters. But then at the end of the day, I could take their responses and color them in a way that would work. They would say like, oh, I'm going to take my whole navy and destroy the whole thing. But then I say, okay, well, they don't have a really good navy, so it's going to be this, or and just but still take the essence and function of what they're trying to do and turn it into something that might be more appropriate thematically for the moment that's happening. So it can happen, but you just need that sort of a smooth funnel of experience and information as where it's going to kind of input versus output and all that kind of stuff. And once you're just going to get that squared away, then I think it could work, right? People who are improv comedians on like Saturday Night Live or Whose Line Is It Anywhere, I'm sure get a great deal of sort of like, okay, this works, this doesn't work, this works, this doesn't work. And so once you kind of know that, you kind of like fit the mold or the model of the show that is being produced, right? Every TV show, even some of the best, like Breaking Bad, have directors that are different from week to week, but there's always somebody who's kind of like making that decision.
I mean, Game of Thrones. I mean, really through the whole thing, we don't acknowledge past 6, right? But famously, multiple directors, for me. Right? You had a different director for. Like, I don't think there's a single director that did more than 2 episodes each season. It was just, but yet you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know from watching it because they had the consistency, right? Yeah. So it kind of sounds like, gathering all the information the two of you have been giving, that it can work, but you either need to be, when it's your world, you need to be a strong director, and have that kind of relationship where you could just say no and not burn bridges, or let them use your world and just say nothing you do is gonna last. It's not canon. Yeah. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I would agree to that. Like if you build it, knowing all the pitfalls instead of just jumping into it.
Well, but I do think there are ways to sort of like adjust in the small. Let's say you have a big storyline campaign arc that's happening in your world that has been going on for years and years, and somebody else kind of like oh, I'd love to demo in your world. Be like, okay, go for it. But like, don't touch any of this stuff. It can be in this part of the world. It can be here. Do anything you want here. And then let's say then they do that. And then let's say they do something that's just like a little bit over the reach of what you think might be happening, right? Well, then you have first of all, you have a discussion with the GM after the fact of how you might be adjusting this. But what you do is you don't simply write it off, right? You can just say that like what happened did happen, but the way we know it as happening is the result of like rumor or the thing kind of like spreading. So this dragon that destroyed this world is how it's told via the perspective of people from this other part of the world because of like the rumor just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so that's still a version of the story as it happened. But then what's the reality of the situation? Well, that could be a whole other adventure. Figuring out, is there dragons down there? And you go and it turns out like there's just like these, like mechanical robots that look like dragons that some like Wizard of Oz type of character is like pretending to be this all-powerful thing or whatever, right? And that could be really fun and exciting and something that maybe you wouldn't have thought of that a new GM brings to the table and then enhances your rolled for it, right?
It could, but at the same time I could see it being as like the DM that did it would be like, oh well, didn't like the idea, right? Like, it kind of like dismisses the concept that they had built, right?
Well, it's your world, so they could go stuff it.
but again, though, like why even do that though, right?
Yep.
I mean, it is opening a can of worms. I can totally see that maybe the easiest thing is just to not. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But I definitely see Jay's point too, that like in the right kind of collaboration, though, it could really expand the ideas if the boundaries are set.
I like the idea of the creative potentials and the differences that arise out of it. I mean, Sandra, you're writing a novelization of our first year campaign in this world, and you have to make creative decisions that are different from the creative decisions that I would have made as this sort of like whatever GM of the world. And it's totally cool. It's interesting to see those. Like I may have some feedback and maybe go like a little bit with that, a little bit with that, but it's like in the end, it's sort of your creation, and I'll just leave it alone.
How many players is too much?
How many players are too much?
How many DMs would be too much to rotate? Like if you had 6 rotating, that'd be too much, right?
For every additional person you have in, that just requires more, like getting that style sheet locked in, baby. Getting people to know everyone on the same page, right? Every time you add a new team member to a project, they've got to understand what you're doing here. What's the goal of the project? And once they get locked in, then the more you get, it like exacerbates the potentials of problems. But I don't think there's really a hard number, to be honest, so long as that there is somebody that's making a final decision in the end, and that's
4.
clear.
I'm gonna say 4. 4 is the maximum. Don't go over 4. 3 was hard enough.
I can tell you that shared author usually somewhere hovering around 5 to 6. So that many can work, but again, there's got to be a central authority.
There's got to be a Kevin Feige.
Exactly.
I'd be interested to see if anyone has done it though, right? Like, maybe some of the people in the comments could tell us
please
what
put
happened.
it in the comments. That'd be awesome.
We would love your experiences on this.
Exactly.
If it's good enough and true, then perhaps we can.
Or a really good fictionalization. We love that too.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
On that note, guys, I'll see you all next week.
Wait.
See you then. What?
What's Phil doing in your garden?
Phil,
no!
I planted marshmallow trees. These things grow like gangbusters.
That's not marshmallows.
Marshmallow hoagies.
Okay, we can close the windows now.
Yeah,
okay. Threw up a little.
Quick. Here he goes. Get out! Bye.
Help us.
Bye.
Bye.
If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have any questions, please feel free to email us at threerpgpodcast@gmail.com. That's 3rpgthrepg podcast@gmail.com. And also, you could visit us on our Patreon to help support us, or visit us at our website at www.3rpg.com. The 3RPG podcast is produced and performed by Sandra Rosner, Chris Wataru Takasaki, and Jay Underwood. Music, audio editing, mix, and master is done by Jay Underwood, and art by Chris Wataru Takasaki.